In the year 1913, in the hallowed halls of Trinity College, Cambridge, lived a man who saw the world in perfect, cold logic. Godfrey Harold Hardy, or G.H. Hardy as he was known, was one of the most celebrated mathematicians of his time. His life was a study in precision. He was an atheist who believed deeply in the beauty of mathematical truth, a scholar of the highest order who found solace in the elegance of a proof. It was on a January morning that a strange-looking letter arrived on his desk, its postmark from Madras, India. The letter was from a man named Srinivasa Ramanujan, a self-taught clerk at the Madras Port Trust. Its contents were, to put it mildly, astonishing. Page after page of the letter was filled with dense, handwritten formulas, complex, intricate, and utterly alien to Hardy's classically trained eye. There were equations for infinite series, continued fractions, and properties of numbers that defied easy explanation. Many of them seemed impossible. The letter was a wild mix of the profound and the nonsensical. Some of the results were already known, but many more were completely new, or so Ramanujan claimed. Hardy's initial reaction, as one might expect, was dismissive. He was accustomed to receiving letters from amateurs, cranks, who believed they had solved impossible problems or discovered groundbreaking truths. He initially tossed the letter aside, convinced it was the work of yet another deluded eccentric. But something about the sheer volume and audacity of the formulas gnawed at him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was looking at something more than just gibberish. Later that same day, he showed the letter to his friend and brilliant colleague, J. E. Littlewood. Littlewood, a mathematician of equal standing, was equally perplexed. They spent hours poring over the pages, their initial skepticism slowly turning into a sense of profound wonder. As they worked through the formulas, a pattern emerged. The ones that seemed most bizarre, most impossible, were often the most beautiful. One particularly stunning example was Ramanujan's formula for calculating pi, which, although not as efficient as some others, was incredibly elegant and revealed a deep understanding of elliptic integrals. Hardy's famous recounting of the moment is a testament to the shift in his thinking. He recalled feeling a deep sense of unease, a feeling he later described as being not a crank. He realized that the man who wrote these formulas must have possessed a genius of the highest order, a raw, untamed brilliance that had blossomed in complete isolation. He wrote, "They defeated me completely. I had never seen anything in the least like them before. It was plain to me that he was a mathematician of the highest quality, a man of altogether exceptional originality and power." The problem for Hardy, a master of formal proofs, was that Ramanujan's formulas often came without proof. They were presented as pure, intuitive truths, as if they had simply been revealed to him. When asked how he arrived at his theorems, Ramanujan would famously reply that the Hindu goddess Namagiri appeared to him in dreams, writing the formulas on a slate. This intuitive, almost spiritual approach to mathematics was in stark contrast to the rigid, logical methods of Cambridge. Hardy's decision was clear: he had to bring Ramanujan to Cambridge. He understood that this man, this clerk from India, was a rare and precious resource, a wellspring of mathematical ideas that could reshape the field. It was an extraordinary decision, one that would change both of their lives forever. He began the long and arduous process of convincing Ramanujan to leave his home, his family, and his deeply held religious beliefs to travel halfway around the world to a cold, foreign land where he knew no one. The journey was filled with obstacles, superstitious fears about traveling over the ocean, cultural and dietary concerns, and the immense financial cost. But in 1914, after months of painstaking correspondence and negotiation, Ramanujan finally boarded a ship for England. He was heading for a place where his genius would be both celebrated and challenged, a place where the intuitive truths of his notebooks would meet the cold, hard logic of proof. Ramanujan's arrival in England was a study in contrasts. He had left the sweltering heat of Madras for the damp, bone-chilling cold of Cambridge. He was a devout Brahmin, a strict vegetarian who struggled to find food that met his religious standards in a meat and potatoes country. He was lonely, isolated from his family and his culture, and often felt out of place in the formal, rigid environment of Trinity College. But it was in the company of G. H. Hardy and J. E. Littlewood that he truly came alive. The collaboration that followed was one of the most remarkable partnerships in the history of science. Hardy, the disciplined and formal master of proof, and Ramanujan, the intuitive genius who saw mathematical truths as if they were constellations in the night sky. Their process was a constant, challenging dance of ideas. Ramanujan would present a notebook full of new theorems, and Hardy would painstakingly work to prove them, or, as was often the case, to show why they were wrong. It was a clash of two very different ways of thinking, the Western emphasis on logical rigor versus the Eastern tradition of intuitive insight. One of their most famous collaborations was on the theory of partitions. A partition of a number is simply the different ways it can be written as a sum of positive integers. For example, the number 4 can be partitioned in 5 ways: 4, 3 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 2 plus 1 plus 1, and 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. The number of partitions for larger integers grows exponentially, and no simple formula existed to calculate it. Ramanujan, using his uncanny intuition, and Hardy, using his rigorous analytical methods, developed a groundbreaking formula that could predict the number of partitions for a given integer with remarkable accuracy. This work, known as the Hardy-Ramanujan asymptotic formula, was a triumph of collaboration and a testament to the power of their combined genius. It was a formula so precise that it could tell you, for example, that the number of partitions for 200 is 3,972,999,029,388, precisely. But the Cambridge years were not without their difficulties. Ramanujan's health, fragile to begin with, began to suffer. The cold, damp English climate and his strict diet, which made it difficult to get proper nutrition, took a heavy toll. He was eventually diagnosed with tuberculosis and spent long periods in sanatoriums. It was during one of these hospital stays that the famous taxicab story took place. Hardy, visiting Ramanujan, mentioned that he had arrived in a taxi with a rather boring number, 1729. Ramanujan, without a moment's hesitation, replied, "No, Hardy. It is a very interesting number. It is the smallest number expressible as the sum of two cubes in two different ways." He was, of course, right, as 1729 is the sum of the cubes of 1 and 12, as well as the sum of the cubes of 9 and 10. This single anecdote perfectly encapsulated Ramanujan's mind. A mind that saw numbers as living, breathing entities, full of unique properties and hidden truths. In 1919, realizing his health would not improve in England, Ramanujan returned to India. His health continued to deteriorate, and he died a year later at the tragically young age of 32. In his final months, he continued to produce an extraordinary volume of work, including a new set of formulas related to Mach theta functions, which would baffle mathematicians for decades. The legacy of Ramanujan and Hardy's collaboration is immense. Hardy, a man who believed that mathematics was the most beautiful of all the arts, always maintained that his greatest contribution to the field was not his own work, but his discovery of Ramanujan. He saw his role as a mentor, a translator of Ramanujan's intuitive genius into the rigorous language of Western mathematics. Their partnership proved that great ideas can come from anywhere, that the crank can sometimes be a genius, and that the language of numbers is truly universal. Ramanujan's work, which seemed so esoteric and abstract at the time, has since found profound applications in fields as diverse as black hole theory, particle physics, and computer science. His legacy continues to inspire and challenge mathematicians to this day. The story of the uneducated clerk from Madras and the Cambridge Dawn is a powerful reminder that genius, when recognized and nurtured, can change the world.